Chapter 10. She dragged herself through the city, from work to school to home, because she needed to carry on, as if nothing had changed, as if their lives hadn't just been opened up to unravelment. She couldn't summon a smile, sing a song, or string together two thoughts without the word deportation finding its way in there, and yet she propelled herself forward the morning after the news, dressed in pink scrubs and white sneakers for a long day of work, and overloaded backpack strapped on her shoulders so she could study at work while the client slept. Fatigued but unbowed, she traveled every day that week from Harlem to Park Slope to Chambers Street, even though she had a headache so vicious, so grown on subway platforms. Whenever the train screeched toward her, once on her way to work, she considered getting off the train to run into a Starbucks bathroom and have a good cry, but she resisted the urge, because what good had all the tears done? What she needed to do was start sleeping better, stop staying up all night, dreading the most horrid things that had not yet happened. We would take it as it comes, Janice said to her every day, but she didn't want to take it as it came. She wanted to be in control of her own life. And now clearly she wasn't, and simply thinking about the fact that someone else was going to decide the direction of her future was enough to intensify her headache, leaving her feeling as if a thousand hammers were banging on her skull. This helplessness crushed her. The fact that she had traveled to America only to be reminded of how powerless she was, how unfair life could be. 6 days after the news, her headache abated, not because her fears had diminished, but because time has a way of abating these things. But new symptoms cropped up: loss of appetite, frequent urination, nausea. The symptoms could mean only one thing, she knew, and it wasn't something to cry over. And yet, when she told Jen about them, she burst into tears, her joy and despair so mingled. She seemed to be crying tears of joy out of one eye and tears of despair out of the other. She couldn't join him in laughing in amazement at the fact that it had finally happened, just when they had stopped worrying about whether it was ever going to happen after almost 2 years of trying. She couldn't marvel at how wonderful it was to get good news at a time like this, but she hoped she would be happy soon as she could eat without throwing and get through a day without feeling like a movable lump of hormones, Mama, Naomi said to her one morning as she packed his lunch. Please don't forget we have the parent-teacher conference today. Tell your teacher I cannot come, she wanted to say, but she looked at him sitting at the dinner, eating his breakfast cereal, peaceful in his ignorance in the way only a child could be. She knew she had to go to the meeting because Jen was right. They had to keep him happy. Naomi is a good student, the teacher said to her by way of opening the conference. After she arrived 15 minutes late from work, Nanny nodded absentmindedly. Naomi was a good student, yes, she knew. She sat with him most evening to do his homework. She didn't need to attend a meeting to hear this, not after having spent 10 hours attending to a bedridden man while her stomach churned from not having eaten lunch because of lack of appetite. It had been about as awful a day as any other to be a home health aide. Every time the man had coughed and asked for his spit cup to deposit yellow gloves of pilgrim, her nausea had returned, and she had rushed into the bathroom to throw up the water and crackers she'd had for breakfast. The only thing that concerns me about him, the teacher went on, is that what concerns you about him? And he asked, suddenly alert. Oh, nothing too bad, the teacher said with a short laugh, a faint accent, Hispanic Italian, sleepy, seeping through her warm voice and causing Nanny to wonder if she was an immigrant or a child of immigrant. If she was an immigrant, she didn't appear to be a poor one, not with the dazzling diamond ring on her finger and the coach bag on the table. She was new to the school and seemed no older than 24, probably only a year or two into teaching, and it was clear to Nanny, from the young woman's cheerful demeanor and easy smile, that she was enjoying her job and that, regardless of why she initially took the job, she believed in what she was doing, in the difference she was making in the lives of her students. It was evident she was nowhere close to being as disillusioned as Leomi's teacher from the previous years, who repeatedly shook her head and sighed at least 10 times during parent-teacher conferences. Leomi is a good student, Mr. Jonga, she said, but he could be more attentive in class. Attentive, huh? The teacher nodded. Just a little bit more, yes. It could make a world of difference. And by not attentive, what do you mean? Is he sleeping when you are talking? Oh no, not at all, the teacher said, smiling again, apparently to put Nanny at ease. Her makeup and pink lipstick were fresh, as if she had applied them between the end of classes and the start of her meeting with the parents. Every strand of her hair was pulled into a neat bun at the back of her head. As far as Nanny was concerned, she looked as if she was all set to go out to dinner with her fiancé, or to one of those lounges where young women without family responsibility went to drink and laugh afterward. I didn't say he's not attentive, she said. He is. He's a good listener, but every so often he lets himself get distracted in class. He and his friend Billy, they do what? Nanny asked. That she was aware of the anger in her voice, but didn't care to tell the teacher that the anger wasn't directed at her. Billy's a clown, but Leomis can't stop himself from laughing at every silly thing Billy says or does. Leomis a great kid, Mr. Jonga. He's obedient, he's sharp, he's just an all-round good boy. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that. I can tell from his performance how involved you are in his schooling, but he makes noise in class. He loves to laugh, which is fine, of course. It's a good thing to be happy. Don't get me wrong, but when he's in class, it would help for him to be less giggly. And you spoke to him, he does not listen to you. He listens sometimes. I moved him and Billy to extreme ends of the classroom. It's not just Leo me. Other kids get a kick out of Billy and his little Brenda comedy. We're working on it. But in the meantime, it will be good if we can help Leomi so he doesn't continue to. Oh, don't worry about anything continuing. And then he said, widening her eyes, and as he stood up to button her jacket, none of this nonsense would continue after today. The teacher nodded and was about to add something, but Nanny was already out the door. She ordered Leomi to stand up, and he complied, jumping up from a bench in the hallway and strapping on his backpack. She said nothing more to him until they got home, though she held his hand firmly as they walked down Frederick Douglass Boulevard, tightening her grip as they hurried past a housing project where two young men had been gunned down the week before. At home, she gave him crackers and orange juice. She could see his fear as he gingerly moved the crackers into his mouth. Leo, she said to him softly, after she had finished his snack and she had asked him to sit next to her on the sofa. She hadn't envisioned herself speaking to him this gently when she walked out of the parent-teacher conference, but something about walking past the place where Young Min had died, then watching him eat his cracker so sadly, had softened her heart. Leo, Do you know why we send you to school? She said. He nodded, looking down to avoid her eyes. Do we send you to school to play, Leomi? He shook his head. Tell me why we send you to school. So I can learn, I said slowly, almost shamefully. To learn and do what else? You send me to nothing. Mama, just learn. Then why do you play in class? Huh? Why do you not listen to your teacher? He looked at her, then the floor, then the wall. But he said nothing. Answer me, she said. Who is Billy? He's my friend. Your friend, huh? He nodded, still looking away. Because he's your friend, you have to let him distract you? Have I not told you that when it comes to school, you cannot let yourself be distracted? But Mama, I did not do anything. Listen to me, Leomi. Open your ears and listen to me because I will say this once and then I will never say it again. You do not go to school to play. You do not go to school to make friends. You go to school to sit quietly in class and open your ears like gum go live and listen to your teacher. Are you hearing me? The child nodded. Open your mouth and say, yes, mama. Yes, mama. Do you think Papa goes to work every day so you can play in school? Without school, you will be nothing. You will never be anybody. Me and Papa, we wake up every day to everything we can so you can have a good life and become somebody one day. And you repay us by going to school and playing school. You know what's going to happen if I tell Papa what the teacher told me? Do you think he would be happy to hear that you think school is a place to play? Mama, please. Why should I not tell him? I won't do it. Wipe your eyes, she said. I won't tell him. But if I hear that you did one stupid thing in class again, he nodded, drying his eyes with the back of his hands. I hope so, because you don't know how it hurt me today. But what the teacher said. Her lips started trembling. His lips started trembling with one look at them and his tear-stained face. Her heart softened again. She moved closer to him, wiped his cheeks with her palm. You're going to do well in school, Leomi, she said, drying her palm on her scrubs. You're going to graduate high school with A grades and go to a good college and become a doctor or a lawyer. You want to become a lawyer like Uncle Winston or a doctor like Dr. Tobias, don't you, the child? The child shook his head. What are you shaking your head for? Don't you want to be a lawyer or a doctor? I want to be a chauffeur. Chauffeur next exclaimed, you want to be a chauffeur? Leomi nodded, looking at her confusedly. His brow furrowed and lips slightly parted. Oh, Leo, she said, laughing, enjoying the first light of moment of her day. Nobody chooses to be a chauffeur. You think Papa would choose to be a chauffeur if he could choose to be anything in the world? Papa is a chauffeur not because it's the best thing it can be. Papa is chauffeur because he didn't finish school and he will never be able to finish school now because he has to work. So me and you can finish school. A chauffeur's job is a good job for Papa, but it won't be for you. Leomi forced a smile. I've told you this. I keep on telling you. School is everything for people like us. We don't do well in school. We don't have any chance in this world. You know that, right? Nodded. Me and Papa, we don't want you to ever be a chauffeur. Never. We want you to have a chauffeur. Maybe you will become a big man on Wall Street, like Mr. Edwards, huh? That will make us so happy. But first, you must do well in school, okay? Leomi nodded again. She smiled at him, then rubbed his head. For the first time since Bubakar told Jan about the possible deportation, she was hopeful. Until the day she left the country, she was going to keep believing that she and her family had a chance. When Jan returned home from work around 6 o'clock, thanks to Mr. Edward being out of the country for work, and Mrs. Edward cancelling her evening plan because of cold, she served him his dinner and left for her 8 o'clock pre-calculus class without telling him what Leomi's teacher had said. In class, she sat in the front row, and she did in every class, believing physical proximity to the teacher was directly related to class grades, except that night her theory was once more proven wrong. When the instructor returned the previous week's test, she had a B minus. I don't understand this grade, professor, the she said to the instructor after she lingered around him long enough for all the other students to leave. Do you disagree with the grade? The instructor asked as he moved a folder into his burgundy man bag. No, I don't think I disagree, she said. It's just that I stayed up all night, the night before this test to study. I did many practice problems, professor. I'm not sure what you're asking me to do. All this studying and I hate it when I work so hard for something and I get a result like this. I just hate it. No matter what I do, I just cannot do well in pre-calculus and now my whole GPA is going go down. I'm sorry, the instructor said as she began walking toward the door. It's okay, professor, she said, turning around. I'm not angry at you. Why don't you email me? I'd be glad to see what you're struggling with. She sighed and nodded. Fatigue blended with frustration, making it hard for her to utter words. And cheer up, the instructor said. Lots of students will be happy with the B minus.